Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We're continuing our Big Ten football predictions today, and our next team has just won 5 games the past 2 seasons, and it looks like 2018 is going to be another rebuilding year. They are the Illinois Fighting Illini. Illinois has only been to 5 bowl games since the 2001 season, and Lovie Smith is trying to get the Fighting Illini back to their first since 2014, but he has the work cut out for him. They do return 16 starters this year, but only have 5 seniors that are projected to be starters, and one of those is their kicker. They only have 9 total upperclassmen, seniors and juniors, that are projected to start this year, meaning the majority of this team are freshmen and sophomores. So while I do say that most coaches hit their stride in year 3, I don't know if that's going to be the case for Lovie Smith, who's only put together 5 total wins over the past 2 years with the Fighting Illini. On offense, they're going to be led more than likely by Cameron Thomas at the quarterback position, who played sparingly last year. I think they played about 3 quarterbacks last year. He completed a little over 40% of his passes for only 375 yards and 5 interceptions. So things aren't looking good at the quarterback position, but he is just a sophomore. Mike Epstein returns at running back, so I picture Illinois' offense mostly revolving around him and mostly being a run-first team, and they also return 4 offensive linemen. So it's going to be a lot of protection for Thomas, but also creating some holes for Epstein to run through, and hopefully benefiting that run game that I think will be the focus of this Illinois offense. They do return their leading receiver in Ricky Smalling and another solid receiver in Mike Dudek, so they still have some options for Cameron Thomas at quarterback. I just don't see much offense production coming from the Fighting Illini this year. On defense, I believe the secondary is going to be their strength. They do return 4 starters in the secondary, so by far the most on either side of the ball, and they're all coming at one position group. So that's huge for them. They're going to have Stanley Green, Cameron Watkins, Nate Hobbs, and Bennett Williams all coming back in the secondary. So that is huge for them and could be the strength, and maybe could help Illinois in some of these close games, maybe getting some wins in there. But like I said, Lovie Smith is entering year 3. I have him on my hot seat. He's got to show signs of improvement, getting 3 wins in year 1 and just going 2-10 last year. I was starting off 2-0. Can Illinois at least show signs of improvement, getting back to 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, somewhere around there, and keep Lovie Smith off the hot seat? Let's open up the year against Kent State. I think that's a win for Illinois. They should get the win there. They've been known to struggle against some of these weaker opponents in the season openers. Last year, just barely defeating Ball State 24-21, but I think they get the win over Kent State. Shouldn't be much of an issue, and should get the win over Western Illinois as well. So that, bam, 2-0. They already matched last year's win total. Then South Florida and Chicago. A very intriguing game here. If South Florida still had Quentin Flowers and some of those guys they had last year, this would be an easy win for the Bulls. But I'm actually going to give the win to the Fighting Illini. I like this, a little bit of this offense, and I really think that the production that South Florida lost is going to hurt them, especially with this only being week 3. They're still going to need some time to really figure out kind of their identity on both sides of the ball. They lost 6 defensive starters from last year. Quentin Flowers, the big-time quarterback, and then Darius Tice, not Darius Geis, Darius Tice at the running back position. And I just think Illinois is going to get the win here, and it's technically kind of like a home game for them with it being played in Chicago. So a win for the Fighting Illini, and they have 3 wins. They are back up to 2016's win total. So maybe this is looking good for Lovie Smith and them. But then they start Big Ten play. They open up against Penn State at home, which is beneficial. But this is a Penn State team that returns a great quarterback in Trace McSorley. Yes, lost Saquon Barkley. They only returned 3 starters on the defensive side of the ball, and with it being early on in the year, maybe they're not going to be as strong. Illinois does host. Maybe they could pull off an upset. I just don't see it. I still think Penn State's offense is going to be very, very dominant, still very, very dangerous, could still be a contender in the Big Ten East. I just don't see Illinois pulling off an upset here, so a loss for the Fighting Illini. And then a bye week. Then they're on to Rutgers. And Rutgers, a team that Illinois could beat. They've hung with them last year, I believe, only losing last year's game by 11 or 9, somewhere around there. And they're coming off a week of rest. It is on the road, but a Rutgers team led by quarterback Artur Sikowski. He's going to be a freshman quarterback, a little bit of a concern there, but it is on the road and a team that should be much more improved. Chris Ash also entering year 3 with his time with Rutgers, and he's going to do a lot better, I think, than Lovie Smith is. He has a lot more talent on both sides of the ball, more experience. With this game being at home, with more experience, more veteran players, juniors and seniors, I just don't see Illinois going on the road and getting a win over the Scarlet Knights, despite having that week of rest. And then Purdue. Another interesting game here for Illinois. Purdue, a team that returns 13 starters, is going to have a very, very potent offense, but I think their offense going to be passing more. They're going to have a lot more production through the air with Elijah Sindelar at quarterback and some solid wide receivers coming back. So maybe that secondary for Illinois can step up in this game, create some turnovers, and pull off an upset at home over the Boilermakers. It wouldn't be the major upset they want, but hey, a win's a win. But I just think, Purdue, despite only having 4 starters back on the defensive side of the ball, is going to be clicking, especially this late in the season. The offense, I think, is going to be extremely potent as long as they can stay healthy. I think they're going to be able to put it on Illinois. Another loss for the Fighting Illini there. On the road at Wisconsin, I'm going to go ahead and mark that down as a loss there. Actually, the Fighting Illini actually hung with Wisconsin last year. I believe only losing just 24-10, but I think this Wisconsin team is going to be better than they were last year. Alex Hornibrook's going to be better. Jonathan Taylor had a great season as just a freshman. He's going to be even better as a sophomore. Obviously, a big-time Heisman contender. The majority of his offensive line returns and a Paul Chryst defense that's going to be dominant as well. And it's at Wisconsin, at Camp Randall Stadium. There's no way I see Illinois going on the road and winning this game. At Maryland, another potential winnable game for Illinois. But Maryland, a team that lost their 2 big-time quarterbacks last year in Casey Hill and Tyrell Pigrome, but if they can stay healthy, could have a solid year. Have the potential for that. Maybe could get back to a bowl game, depending on how things go. I believe I have them falling just short. It is on the road. I like Maryland's dual-threat quarterbacks. I like their offense. I just don't see Illinois going on the road and winning this game, too. You've got to keep in mind, Illinois is a young team. Like I said, they do return 16 starters, but you look at what Illinois could be next year. Next year could be the year that they finally break through and get back to the bowl game for the first time since 2014. They just don't have any upperclassmen this year. They don't have any veterans on this team. Most of them freshmen and sophomores. They will return next year, and then maybe Illinois can get back to a bowl game. They stay at home against Minnesota, and last year that was a pretty close game for Illinois, only losing that game 24-17. So a Minnesota team that I think under P.J. Fleck is going to be improved from that 5-7 record, a 5-7 record that didn't really indicate how good that team really was. Could have been a lot better, an 8-win, 9-win team. Should have some questions on the offensive side of the ball, especially at quarterback, but I like Rodney Smith, I like Tyler Johnson, I like their offensive line, and a defense that I do think is going to improve for the Golden Gophers this year, and they actually weren't too bad last year either. So I'm going to give Illinois a loss here to the Golden Gophers, but it wouldn't surprise me if maybe they can pull off the upset over P.J. Fleck's squad, because last year they hung with the Golden Gophers, only losing by 7. It's at home this year. Minnesota still has some questions that need to be answered. Maybe Illinois can get the win, but right now, marking it down as a loss. At Nebraska. So they face, I keep saying this because I believe it to be true, and I really do believe this. P.J. Fleck and Scott Frost, I think, are 2 of the best young coaches in the game right now. They're facing both of those in back-to-back weeks. On the road against Scott Frost's new team at Nebraska. Like Minnesota, has a couple questions on the offensive side of the ball, especially at the quarterback position, but the defense going to be solid for Nebraska. Not an easy place to play. Another loss for Illinois. And another loss for Illinois against Iowa, a team, despite it being at home, that I think is going to be probably Wisconsin's biggest threat in this Big Ten West. I really like Nathan Stanley. I love this Iowa defense. Kirk Ferentz doing a great job with Iowa, as he has done during his entire career. Despite it being at home, I just don't see Illinois getting the win there. And then on the road against Northwestern, a team that returns 14 starters. Pat Fitzgerald always doing a great job with his Wildcats team. They're out of bowl contention, obviously, with just 3 wins, all those coming at the beginning of the season. Clayton Thorson and a very solid Northwestern team that also will have a dangerous secondary. I just don't see Illinois going on the road and getting a win over the Wildcats, so another loss there, which is going to give them a 3-9 record for 2018, which I think really is probably to be expected. Like I said, this is a young Fighting Illini team. I hope, for Lovie Smith's sake, he does not get fired. Maybe he will get fired or will be much more on the hot seat next year. Maybe he wasn't as much on the hot seat this year. It's been 3 years, and after this season, assuming they go 3-9, would only have 8 wins. So, but I think next year could be the year they break through and get to a bowl game. They're going to have a lot more experience, more so than they do this year, despite returning 16 starters. I think they could easily start off 3-0, but that South Florida game is a toss-up. Could very well to be another 2-10 season, because I don't see any Big Ten game besides potentially Minnesota, maybe Purdue or Rutgers, that Illinois could potentially win. So I don't see them going bowling again this year. I think 3-9 is reasonable. I hope Lovie Smith does not get fired. I'd like to hear you guys' opinions down in the comments, what their record will be and what will happen to Lovie Smith. Will he be fired at the end of the season, or will he just be on the hot seat going into year 4 of his tenure with the Fighting Illini, and then next year a big make-or-break season? So we're just going to have to wait and find out. But 3-9 for the Fighting Illini for the 2018 season. As always, please go check us out on Twitter at GridironExpert, on Instagram at The Gridiron Expert and always here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.